Welcome to the next installment of the Squid Games. You thought you were here for the voice of the Microsoft partner, but we decided to take it over. In 1 hour, a black van will be in the front of your house. Make sure you don't scream and you just get in, and we'll take care of the rest. Just kidding. Hey, welcome to the voice of the Microsoft partner. Today's kind of a bit of a spooky, voice of the Microsoft partner, where we're actually going to be talking to some great speakers here today. We're talking about incentives and co-op, and we're going to have a really great time here. I'm going to put away my chainsaw. That's for later. We'll do that. But anyways, thanks everybody for coming today. Really do appreciate it. It's going to be a really fantastic show. Today. We have Jason Hinton on, Mike Haines that is coming here. So just really, really fantastic. And today we don't have a lot of pre-stuff. So a couple things here. We've got one more show at the end of the month. We're actually going to be doing it in the first week of December, where we're going to actually dive even deeper into co-op. So, please make sure you come to that one, because we're going to really talk about how to spend the money that you have available. We're experts at that. We work with partners every single day of how to, really utilize those funds. So this is going to be a really good kind of start to really the next one. It'll be a good transition, right? So a couple things here. If you're joining us from LinkedIn, thank you so much. This is really fantastic. If you're joining us here on the actual show, fantastic. Two things. One, remember, this is a networking event as well. So please start putting in your contact information and maybe what you specialize in. Put it in the chat window. There's a possibility that you might be on the West Coast. You got a deal on the East Coast. You might need somebody over there to help you out. We want to foster this as that. Now, secondly is we're going to be doing some polls today. We're going to have them available in the Teams event as well as on LinkedIn. Now, on LinkedIn, it's going to be a Microsoft Forms. Now, the guidance or the purpose of this is that Microsoft has actually asked us to give some feedback back to them regarding partner solution designations, regarding incentives, right? And these are anonymous. Okay, so we're not giving any names. We're not going to give them that. But the idea here is to make sure that you can get your voice heard, really, the voice of the Microsoft partner, right? Is it hard? Have you done these things? So please do us a favor. Go ahead and click on that. Just say yes, no, yes, we got this, we don't got that. And then, and the reason I think is to then take this data, bring it back to Microsoft, right? And then hopefully they can take a look at some of these things, because I think we're going to be kind of going over that is still kind of confusing. Or what is the reason why that we're getting these partner solution designations? Why do we want to get the incentives? Is it too hard, right? We want to give some real positive feedback back to them. We're not allowing for individual comments related to that, right? So don't worry about it. It's just yes, no, not interested, or maybe interested or whatnot. So please make sure you go ahead and do that. Next, we also do like to allow you to put questions up into the actual chat window for our speakers. Now, our speakers will be in the back, or not in the background, but when they're not speaking, they might be able to answer some of your stuff just via the chat window, very simply, or we'll kind of table them and try to make sure that we understand which is the right question. So we always like to do that to really kind of get things, we want to foster conversation here, right? We want to foster different things that are kind of happening. So with that being said, we also really appreciate you coming to these things every single month. We put them on always the last Friday. You can either find us on LinkedIn, or you're going to get one of our not so annoying, but we send a lot of communications out, right, to get people to kind of come in and take a look at it. But we really do appreciate it. Your support has been really, really fantastic, and just thank you. From the bottom of our hearts, we put a lot of time and effort into this, which really try to make this really great. So with that being said, let me go ahead and introduce our two speakers. We've got Jason Hinton and Mike Haines from Microsoft. I'm going to allow you guys, Jason, do you want to start off, just, give a little brief overview who you are, your roles and responsibilities, and then we'll go over to Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jason Hinton, I'm the strategy lead for Azure for Global Partner Solutions Americas now. That is a new change. So I cover Canada, US, and Latin America. But I used to be a partner development manager with Sherman, and then also I was a partner seller. So when I'm talking about the strategy to help our partners and help our customers, I'm really trying to take it from the lens of having been in that space. And so I try to be honest as I can, and also really think about what it's like from your perspective. So that's where I'm coming from, and I'm super excited to be a part of this today.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Hi, everyone. This is Mike Haines. So I am the Director of Channel Incentive Strategy and Design at Microsoft at our corporate location. And in that role, I've been in this role for 13 years, hard to believe. I've been at Microsoft 18 years. And as part of that, I lead the overall kind of collaboration around designing incentives. My focus is primarily in the small, mid-sized business and corporate space. So CSP, and prior to that, open license incentives. And quite frankly, I pretty much launched co-op as a global component when I actually globalized SMB incentives 12 years ago, I guess it was. I've been in the industry. This January will be 44 years. So I was in the channel for 20 years. And so I've played the role that many of you play. And then I led all of Gartner's strategy and research around channel models and sales models for about 6 years, until Microsoft made me an offer I couldn't refuse, to use a kind of a Godfather analogy there. So I've been here for 18 years, and it's a thrill to be with you. There's probably many of you that I know and maybe have met with, so it'll be great to chat with you again and give you an update. Back over to you, Sherman.
All right. Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate it. Yeah. So we're also sponsored by Heinz today. If you see the mustard here, and then Jason just did escape from Azure Azkaban. So we're happy he's able to make it today. So appreciate it. Hey, so we're going to start with our first poll. But once again, please make sure that you put your name and what you specialize in the chat window. We want to make sure that you guys get some press here, everybody here. But we're going to put a first poll up here. Let's go ahead and present that first one. Who's pushing the poll up? Okay, so basically our first question is really going to be, how many of you have achieved silver and gold certifications in the past? Because we want to kind of see what the delta is with that. And kind of see where everybody is at. Now, remember, these are anonymous, okay? So, but the good thing is that we can kind of help do that, right? So our team has achieved multiple silver and gold. That's really good. Okay, our team achieved gold. Our team achieved silver. Okay, fantastic. And we did not achieve any certifications. That was actually my response, as I haven't got that there yet, but that's really fantastic. Yeah, we should probably average managed partner, but I think the gist here is trying to kind of set the stage with that one. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the discussion. We're going to do this, kind of get into it right away on that. So I actually going to start over with Mike first. Can we just kind of start with like the foundational pieces here? Let's start with understanding Microsoft incentives and where the direction is headed from a corporate standpoint, from where Microsoft is sitting.
Yeah, thanks, Sherman. It's a good question to start with, quite frankly, because incentives over the last several years, as the industry has evolved, our incentives have evolved, and they continue to do so. And it's always important for partners to really have a good view of where we are focusing our budget and our focus around incentives. And one of the things I like to share with partners when I talk to them is to really understand that we are increasingly extending incentives across each stage of the customer solution lifecycle. And this is near and dear to my heart, because one of the first things I recommended when I left Gartner to come to Microsoft, those many years ago, was this type of an approach. But the industry wasn't really there yet. I mean, we were really not into a quote solutions and cloud-based world back then. But we increasingly are putting incentives on the first stage of the customer solution lifecycle, building intent. So a lot of things like workshops and proofs of concept and that sort of thing that build intent with the customer around Microsoft and the Microsoft partner solution. Then around transacting and just managing the engagement. That's where the bulk of the incentives have been historically. And then most importantly, around consume and grow. In other words, helping the customer realize fully the value of what they bought and getting it to address what the whole solution was about, which really leads then to opportunities for additional sales, upsell, and really having the customer grow their relationship and realize value. And so at one end, that's part of the high level of where we're putting incentives. Increasingly, pardon me, on on the build intent and consume and grow. The other thing I'll add is that we always are focused incentives and our design of incentives in the programs. And we do have a lot of programs because we're a big, diverse company, but a lot of those are always aligned to our strategy. So it's important for partners to understand across all of our solution areas and business units what the strategies are and what our priorities are, because that is where we're going to put a lot of our funding to reward partners when they're driving outcomes that are really aligned to our key strategies. And the more partners kind of think about their relationship with us in relation to that, and then go take time to find out what incentives we have all along where they play with us and where they play with the customer is so critical.
Yeah, and I guess one thing that I probably should have started with as well is we or Microsoft, 'cause I worked there for 5 years, so I say we a lot, so apologize if not there just anymore. But they change. It's always changing, right? And the important thing for any Microsoft partner who wants to be engaged is to really be engaged and pay attention, because things are moving. And in the past, a lot of stuff was on Pi. A lot of stuff was on, hey, let's sell, Skype for Business, and we get this big incentive in the back end. But things change based on priorities, right? And
Yep.
and the main thing is kind of like like Microsoft is the aircraft carrier. As it moves to the left, you got to move the support ship over there to the left. Sometimes it sucks because the water's a little rough, but it's okay because there's an idea behind it. Now, Jason, how would you kind of answer that same question from maybe a different point of view, different perspective as far as foundationally incentives and whatnot?
So in terms of one of the things that we recognize, and we've gotten this feedback from partners, is that sometimes it's a high bar to get the incentives and to get the specializations or the solution designations. And that's something we're going to dig into a little bit later. But I think one of the things that's critical is understanding what you want to do and prioritizing it. And by that, I mean, is there an area you want to focus? Do you want to be differentiated as opposed to the other partners that are out there? And like I was talking to someone yesterday, they said, hey, we only want to do project services work, but we want these incentive dollars. And I'm like, well, but you're not reselling any Microsoft products. And they're like, yeah, and we don't want to. And I'm like, well, then we can't incent you if you're not selling Microsoft products because you're just doing the project services, which is great, right, for your business. And they're like, well, does that mean we can't partner? I'm like, no, you can. You just need to know what pieces of the pie you want to help play in, right? If you have IP, then that's one piece of it. If you want to be a marketplace, that's another piece. But then some of the other doors may not be open, right? And so one of the things when I've had partners tell me like, why do I have to do this? I run a successful business, have these kind of margins, and I don't need this. I'm like, you don't. But then you also can't ask for the access. And sometimes you may not be part of the programs. And we have to, it's like we respect how you run your businesses. And we do feel like we need to do more in different spaces. I was having that discussion today with some partners, but it's hard, right? Like the aircraft carrier is a good analogy. You don't spin an aircraft carrier on a dime. And when we change by a few degrees, it has really big shifts in other areas. So we try to be sympathetic to that, but we need to continually improve. And that's why we want to be here today. So
Great. And the other thing too, I think pay special attention. This is for the audience. Pay special attention to how to work with Microsoft. Okay, so there's we call it keys to the castle, but there's nothing. I think this is the most clear Microsoft has been with, hey, do you want to work with Microsoft sellers? Okay, these are very specific things to actually you have to get done. Partner solution designation, specialization, co-sell ready offer, and then managed partner helps, right? But that, you got to show them what you're doing, but then you can actually work with enterprise sellers. So it's a lot clearer. But just to Jason's point, if you're just a professional services organization, yes, it's great. It's fantastic. We need support. You need support, right? You need these great partners to do this. However, you got to also align with how Microsoft's going, right? And you got to show them that you're part of building the business, right? So they can incentivize you there. But I think it's probably the clearest way of working with Microsoft sellers today with the way it's structured. It's hard, it's not easy, but that's okay. We're gonna help you understand that. So that's what we're going to kind of dig into here. So going into the next question, and we'll start with Jason here. What are the requirements that partners need to know to maximize? Gosh, that's a great segue. Didn't even realize that incentives and programs. Why don't we start there?
So I mean, if you think about the components of working toward the certifications that you need to get the solution designation, that you need to get the specialization, you're really thinking of a few key elements, right? So you have to have the people who can both execute, have the expertise, and can earn the certifications to say you have enough people that can do the work. And I'll tell you why that's important. If you have one person who is your data guy or data person, that may not be enough to really get you to that next level, right? Maybe you need 3 or 4 because we need you to scale, right? Then there's the second thing of what are you really wanting to do? Are you wanting to resell? Are you wanting to be a cloud solution provider program partner? Maybe not, right? In terms of how you transact and what's important for your business. And then really when we get to the specialization piece, so there's those 3 levels. When you get to the specialization piece, it's 2 parts, right? We really need a way, and we've been asked this by customers, of how you differentiate your partners. Is it just because this partner's really good and close to Microsoft people, so they made them gold? Is it they earned it plus they made them gold, so that's why they get the opportunities? When you go through the specialization, it is a high bar, but it's also an external audit that says Microsoft didn't say we were good at this. It really is the best of the best. And and one of the things we talk about is like I think one of the things that happens over time is if you look at sort of like a high school degree, a college degree, and a master's degree, different things come with each of those. Not everybody needs to have all of them. I don't have a master's degree, but I've had experience and you have different things. I might not be able to be in certain groups because I don't have that. But I understand that. That's the rules of the game, Sherman, just like you said, right? What are the rules of the game? How do you play it? But then one of the things we're trying to get better with is if you're working toward all of that, how can we help make it easier for that? So we do have discounts on certification vouchers, right, to get those certifications. We do help with paying for audit costs if you're trying to get a specialization. And we're trying to do some more. Like what I've been asked by partner Sherman is, can we get a step stool that gives us some sort of graded bench between what you get for just being a partner and what you get for being a solution designation partner and what you get for being a specialized partner. And the one thing that he said that I want to reinforce, neither Mike nor I have any influence on you being a managed partner or not, right? But you can do all these things, solution designation, advanced specialization, work with the field and not be managed. It's harder, but if you're special and you're specialized, you can find that path.
Great point. Mike, how would you maybe add color to that question?
Yeah, when I think about how partners and how they can look at it to maximize incentives, I'll leave it to Jason to comment on the program itself, but on maximizing incentives, my guidance is to really take time to become aware of all the incentives available. Number one, and so if you go to the partner, your partner site, and there's an incentive section there. There'll be links later on in a couple slides that I have. Um, and bring up the incentive guide for MCI or Microsoft Commerce Incentives. That is the Bible of incentives. Everything is moving to MCI now. And in that document, and it's a huge document, but it's broken out beautifully because it shows so many views by solution area, by different business views, by partner type, the different incentives at all 3 stages of the customer lifecycle I talked about. And think about where you play with customers, where your focus is with customers, and then take some time there to understand the incentives. It is amazing how many partners are not aware of incentives that actually exist for work they're actually doing with customers every day. Pre-sale and post-sale, as well as even if they're not doing the transaction, there are things there depending on their role and the type of partner they are. So really become aware of that. We have increased the budget in incentives amazingly over the last few years. And a lot of it has gone into that work that partners do pre-sales and post-sales. But take time to be aware of it, and then take time to be aware of what it takes to be eligible for the programs that are relevant to what you do for a living. And usually it has to do with specializations and or designations and or renewing benefits of competencies. And sometimes it has to do with possibly some kind of revenue track or something. But usually, it's around designations and specializations. That's why we build those things. And we try to align our eligibility around that, because that's what proves a partner has a bona fides to do that. But at the end of the day, please be aware of all the programs. There's so many of them for different roles, for different types of partners. And I hate to see partners leave money on the table when they're actually doing the work.
That's a really good thing. And Andres, one of our executives here, our business development executives, he was tasked earlier this month with reading that 352-page document and deciphering it and understanding it. And he went through it, and there's a lot of nuances to it. So it's really that's an important document. Like that's one of the really, because you find out like, okay, no, I don't do that one. Oh, wait a minute, I do. Oh my gosh, yeah, I've got like 4 or 5 customers that if I do this, that, and the other. Now let me make it just kind of let me make a statement, and let me know if you agree to this. And the statement I'm having here is one of the main reasons that Microsoft moved to partner solution designation and specialization instead of just advanced specialization is we needed to get better as a whole industry on doing implementing solutions correctly. And there's a framework that Microsoft kind of wants you to follow. Now, a lot of us don't follow that framework, but we do in a different way, kind of a thing. But let me ask you, would you agree that the reason we went to partner solution designation and advanced specialization was because we wanted to make sure that our partners were skilled up to be able to provide the best experience to the end customer? How would you feel about that statement, Mike or Jason?
Well, I'll add a little color to that one, because I've lived through this, having been a partner myself when some of the competency stuff was first talked about many years ago. The competencies were great in their time, but
yeah,
they really hadn't aligned with the evolution of the industry. And so when you think about where we are now, how customers buy and where they focus by what we call solution areas now, it was just inevitable that we needed to evolve for the exact reason you talk about. Our partners, I am so proud of what our partners do today. So many of them have gone from being traditional transactional partners to true services and solutions companies. But what they're needing to do with customers is much more sophisticated, which is why specializations are important and why the designation concept now really allows a partner to achieve the capabilities so that a customer recognizes that you have the capabilities I need to do X, Y, or Z. And that's so far beyond, in a solutions and services world, what competencies were.
That's great. Here's another analogy. And actually, my team, can you guys post a link to download the PowerPoint for everybody here and post it on LinkedIn as well? But my dad, I remember before he passed, he gifted me his book of knowledge. It was basically the encyclopedia, but it's called the Book of Knowledge. And it was like these 24, encyclopedias, and published like in 1945 or something like that, right? Just really over the, and every once in a while, I'll go back to it. I'll just pull one out and I look at it, and there's so many errors. There's so many assumptions, right? And just think about that. If you were a partner back in even 10 years ago, right? And you're really great at what you did 10 years ago, but today you're trying to implement maybe VDI solution. Maybe you don't have all that stuff. So it's kind of like we gotta keep updating. I know it's like, oh gosh, we got another certification, but it's really important because our reputation is everything, right? In this. All right, so let's get into the meat of this, and let's review MAICCP, because I know Jason's been talking about this acronym a lot. What is that acronym? And then let's walk through PSD, another acronym, and points, so we can kind of get everybody to level set here. And we do have some questions in the chat window. We're going to get to those, so don't worry that we're not answering those right now. But Jason, why don't we start with that?
Yeah, so I would call FY24 the year of the largest acronyms that Microsoft has had available. So MAICPP, Microsoft AI Cloud Partner Program, is really one of those things. We actually took a quiz today when we had this give event with partners to see how many people knew what the acronym stood for, and the partners and some of the Microsoft people still didn't know. But really what we're talking about, so Mike talked about the competencies, it's where we start, right? Like that's where we're starting to your point, Sherman, gain the points. And then as you have points, if you have enough points for doing certifications and revenue and all these other pieces, you get up to a certain number of points. When you get a certain number of points, you get the solution designation, right? So taking that level up from a competency, like I think, and Mike, you might agree with me on this, and I like the way you presented it. A competency almost says that I qualify to be here, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm really good at it. It just
Right.
means like I met the qualifications to get a part to become a part of this program. But if I'm gold and you're gold, or I'm silver and you're silver, we might be very good at data, and I might be very good at just shifting data from one place to the other, but I don't know anything about analytics, right? And so now if we have the solution designation, it takes us into that more refined state. And I'll give you one analogy from, I love this meme, is like, did they change math? Like if you've ever been with your kids and you find out like what they're learning in fourth grade and third grade, and then, you don't add and divide the same way you used to. And I'm like, I can get the answer, but I can't do it the way you want to do it, right? All of this is evolving over time. So the solution designation is on a continuum. Now, if you get to that solution designation point, then you say like, well, I want recognition for this. I should be specialized in this because I'm really good. And I want the AVD specialization, or I want the data specialization, or the AI specialization. And so that's where we're going to, the next level up is to say, hey, I qualify for this. Now I'm going to get third-party validation that all the stuff I've earned, all the points I've earned, say I can do this. And it really is one of those things where, as much as people might think it's Microsoft, there were customers coming to Microsoft and saying like,
Yeah.
hey, I just want to let you know, the label you give this partner, I had 2 over 3 of them come to me, and it was vastly different in terms of what their capabilities were. So to Mike's point, we want to get more refined than you qualify to now the solution designation. But I will say that we are trying to look and say, hey, maybe solution designation should be different for SMB than they should be for others, because there are some different bars, and maybe you're in a space where we want you to be and you don't want to be in the other space, and we still want you to be able to differentiate. So there are some things we're trying to work on because we've heard you, but that's the purpose behind it. Mike, I see you shaking your head. If you have any other thoughts on that, that'd be great.
No,
But
I think
yeah.
it's dead on. It's absolutely right. And if you think about it, competencies, like I said, were great in their time, but one thing they didn't do is find proof that a partner could do anything much more than pass a bunch of tests and get certified that at least they have the technical ability to say, we passed these tests. We have some people on site that are somewhat expert. Designations is now in a solutions world much better, because you have to prove you have customer installs, customer references, proof points, way more detail, and that's what you need in this world.
That's great. Yeah, I the other thing to think about, okay, is you may be sitting here thinking, man, this is too hard. Oh gosh, I got to invest all this extra money. I've got to do all these extra things. I don't know if this is really worth it. But let me just think about it. So let me place this a little bit different. You have a great opportunity. I'm always this eternal optimist. I'm always looking like, where's the golden rainbow, I guess, right? But you have this great opportunity to almost not reinvent yourself, but reinvest in yourself, okay, to show your alignment with Microsoft by just getting the PSD first and foremost, right? But when you get that advanced specialization and you put a co-sell ready offer into the marketplace, right? And then maybe if your IP co-sell, even better because you have a transactable offer, holy Moses, right?
Mhm.
But to think about this, then you can get added to the drop down for these enterprise sellers. Okay, so you didn't have that opportunity a year ago, year and a half ago. You were probably lost in
That's
the
right.
shuffle, but you have a new opportunity that you can sprint now, get these things that you need to get to, and all of a sudden you're one of a very few. I looked at the Power Platform Advanced Specialization Partners. There was only like 17 on there. 17. That's it.
Yeah.
Think about that. There's 18,000 partners that are producing here in the United States, right? You want a 17? That is good. So you can jump ahead of your competition if you maybe think about this a little bit differently. Okay, a little bit differently, as opposed to, oh gosh, this bar is so high to actually get money to be able to do these different types of things. So that's just a thought that I wanted to put on here. We have
Well,
another
those investments are also, the way I look at it with partners, Sherman, is that yes, the bars are high, and yes, they have to invest, but they're not just investing in a Microsoft designation. They're investing in their business
yeah,
capability
yeah.
around a very specific issue, which probably has high customer demand in the marketplace. What an opportunity. I mean, if sometimes just looking at the glass slightly different is important too, because there are some amazing market ops out there right now. But to your point, only the best of the best are going to earn the right with the customer to own their environment with them and take it forward. That's pretty cool. When it was a competency world, Boy, they all look the same because all of you just passed these tests and got the competency. But now to your point, there's only a few that reach that high bar, and it's easier to sell that value with a customer.
Right. Yeah, I know. I think it's a massive opportunity. I know it's new, everything new, change is difficult, but like, hey, look at the silver lining here. Hey, there was a question here. I don't know if we can answer this one, but from the group here, Microsoft extended the incentives for another year for partners that have a legacy benefits pack.
Yep.
But if you buy a solution designation, let's say modern work, are you going to lose your Azure incentives? Am I correct?
So Azure is a unique bird. I can answer that because I'm right in the middle of it every day, obviously.
Oh, great.
So especially in the CSP world, which I can speak of because I design all the CSP incentives, Azure, we now require either one of the Azure designation or the renewal of the benefit package from a competency that was an Azure competency. So you don't qualify by having a modern work or a BizApps competency or designation. For incentives related to modern work and business applications, we haven't changed that at this point. You can have benefits package from any of the 18 or 19 competencies that existed or any of the designations. I think there's 6 or 7 that qualify. But Azure's a unique bird because it's such a specific requirement with the partner, especially with some of the workloads that are coming into Azure, that we need to make sure those partners have that Azure the Azure chops to do it is the best way I can describe it.
Excellent.
I hope that answers the question for whoever brought it up. So
I think it does. I think it does. This is really great. We're so lucky to have you two here just to kind of give this off color and kind of, figure this out. So we've got another poll here. Let's go ahead and do the gold and silver. Okay, so I think this is important, and we'd like to get your feedback on here. So gold and silver used to mean something to customers, or maybe it still does. Do you feel that the new partner solution designations does the same things? Okay, so you can put yes, and what I'm saying is, like, when you go to a customer and you say, I'm a partner solution designation, in AI, is that the same? Does it hold any weight with your customers? Okay. So go ahead and answer that. We'd really appreciate it. And let me just see what we've got some results here. Are we publishing the results? Okay, let me see. 19 responses. Why can't I see? Oh, that's why. Well, thank you for your feedback. For some reason, I can't see the responses, but really do appreciate it. Want to know what's on that. Riva, can you show the responses on that? Let's see.
And I think this is a great question too, Sherman, because I think it's important that we shifted things because of customer feedback. But I'm interested to see what you all hear from customers as well, right? Like the partners hear from customers about, like, is it sort of like, do I recognize it and is it important to me, right?
Okay, yeah. Riva, did you, let's see, but we'll come back to that one. We'll come back to the results on that one, but thank you so much for doing that. That's going to help us. We're actually posting that on LinkedIn as well. So if you're here from LinkedIn, please vote for that, because that's how we affect change, is if we can give good feedback to Microsoft on how, what's going on here. Okay. So, specializations are often talked about, yet many partners don't know why they're important. What are the benefits of attaining these specializations? And then can you also just talk about the note that's changed from advanced specialization to specialization, just in case people get confused? Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of, like, and Mike, you may know the reason why we took advanced off. I don't know that. I know we shifted to specializations, and one of the things I would say that is really important, and I think this is, I saw somebody talk about specialized partners and differentiated. One of the things that came up earlier is, and Sherman will remember this from our time and together as PDMs, is to be special, you sometimes have to stop doing stuff, right? Like, there may be things you have to say no to. You can't do it all well to really truly be special. And so with that, when you have these specializations, you're going through a process of auditing, you're going through a process of validation, but then you're unlocking incentives and programs. And then also both the field sellers and the customers have a different way to view your practice area, right? And so, and with the specialization, I know it can be tough. I know it has some other, hurdles to climb and things like that, but it does unlock quite a bit of money. So, like, I'll give you an example in terms of, I've talked to partners who said it's a minimum $10,000 to help with the specialization. And, I'm really, I appreciate the audit cost coverage. I appreciate the cert validation, but what about my people's lost billable time? What about the other things I have to do? What if I have to hire somebody else to take a certification to get a specialization? Now, I hear all of that, and I realize too that it may not be for everyone. Like, you have to figure out what your strategic objectives are. One thing I will say is there's a purpose for having more than 2 people that can take a test and pass a certification, right? Because you need to truly be expert in that area. Also, if we give you 2 as a top partner, a specialized partner in this space, we want to know that you're capable of doing it. We don't want to put either of you in a bad spot. We don't want to say like, hey, we think we can do it, and so we try to do it really well with this one because we feel pretty confident, versus you've passed all this stuff and you absolutely can do it. So from a specialization perspective, that's one, right? The validation piece. The investments and incentives, they really will start to pay for themselves. Even if it's a $50,000 investment to get a specialization, your first handful of deals as a cloud solution provider partner can really make up for that between the investments, the incentives, the accelerators, and all of that. Now, the one thing I will tell you though, and I've even said this to our executives, they go, well, the answer is we need to have more specialized partners. I'm like, again, not everybody's meant to be specialized. So the answer is not to say we go after the specialization just to unlock the investments and incentives. But if you feel like you're specialized in that space, go ahead and take the other steps. It could easily pay for itself by using the levers. And that's part of what Sherman and his group can do, is say like, hey, you have this now. Here are all of the things that open up to you because you're specialized. But one of the things I want to highlight too, because you brought up a good point, Sherman, even if you're specialized in one area, doesn't mean you can do it in another, right? I may have the AVD specialization and then I want to go do some other workload and get some other incentive and investment. I can't do it in another workload. I may be M365. Well, that doesn't unlock AVD. That doesn't unlock biz apps. So as we go through this process, it's really important to say, this is the 1 or 2, this is my recommendation. If I were in your shoes, what are the 1 or 2 things I really want to invest in? Let me do that really well. And there's other business that can come to you, but that's what I focus on. That's what I build my brand around. And to your point, Sherman, marketplace is key. If you can get into the marketplace and you have the specialization and you really can, it's going to unlock things where you're a manager not. So I'll stop there.
So with that being said, I think you kind of touched on wanting partners to leverage these designations, right? But how about this? Let's go back just a little bit. Where's the money going? Because in the past, let's just look at the past. In the past, there was this thing called PI, right? Partner Investment Engine, where it's like, hey, do these one-to-many events, and we're going to incentivize you to get some of these things going, and then there's these small things. But that program has pretty much been deprecated or
absorbed.
Kind of just
it's absorbed. Yeah.
Okay, good. So
yeah.
Where's the money going? Like where's the where do you have to be as a partner to really take advantage of Microsoft wanting to invest in not only you as a partner, but in the customer, in deals, that kind of a thing? At what level do you kind of need to be able to really maximize investments?
Honestly, it's just to be specialized. Like even specialized and managed is better because there is some access to it, but we can't guarantee how that is. And just so you know, the biggest barrier, and this is what I would say to you, because this is what I say to other partners, it's not that Microsoft wants to manage fewer partners. It's that we only have enough people to manage so many partners. And Sherman and I can tell you, it's a handful when you're managing a certain number of partners at a given time. And then how do you get all of them to do X, Y, and Z? But I would say, like, just once you pass the specialization bar, you get those things. So as Mike said earlier, we keep increasing the investments and incentives. Now, we also move them sometimes. And I'll give you an analogy of why we move them. If we're paying you, like, let me ask you, how many people have sellers that they go, yeah, I just want them to sit on and farm these accounts, and I'm going to pay them the same commission just to work with the same customers to generate the same revenue? Most businesses would say, well, absolutely not. But then when we start to shift incentives toward growth, people are like, wait. We had incentives before. Now you mean we have to grow the ACR to have an incentive? And I do understand where it changes. Like, I'm sympathetic to the fact that, sometimes we have a program, we change the program, but we aren't ever investing less. We're moving the money. Pie didn't go away. I had somebody tell me, Sherman, hey, I heard ESIP was closed or canceled. Like, no, we have not ended ESIP. It is still there, but it is a bank of money, right? And so there's different programs that you can take from. You have to know which programs you can. You have to know, well, hey, this isn't ESIP, but I still have this program to drive Azure credits, or I have this program to drive something else. And it's really knowing where those are. But I will tell you, like this, I can't give away all of the the monetary things, but somebody said this would be a good analogy to really help partners. If you're specialized, and I think most partners want 50% plus percent margin, right? So we want to be over 50% margin, because really when you get into like 60, 70%, you have to have IP. 50 plus percent margin, specialized partners can do that, right? Like we put together some from extra small deals to large deals that if you look at all the investments, all the incentives, all the accelerators, you're easily over 50% margin on doing these CSP deals. So like my recommendation, if you have a managed services business, become a CSP partner. If that's a space you want to play in, find that area you want to be specialized in, because you are leaving investments and incentives on the table, but don't just do it to unlock the investments and incentives. And I'll see if Mike has any other thoughts on that, because I mean it's a very nuanced question.
Yeah, I know we have another topic to get to, so I'll be brief, but the first slide is the best guidance I can give. We are moving our incentives more towards global oversight and moving more and more of the incentive budget to pre-sales work and post-sales work, driving usage and consumption, and to partners who are specialized like ISVs and SIs that are truly doing highly valuable work and driving business to the marketplace. So, those are the areas where the money moves because it's strategic to the business. And so, as I said in my very first opening remarks, take the time to go look at the MCI incentive guide. It shows you where we're investing, and then pay attention to how that changes year over year. You won't be surprised. It will align absolutely to the strategy that Satya and Judson and Hayat and Takeshi and others lay out for the company. We align to driving Microsoft's strategy and priorities, period.
That's great. All right, another poll, super important one. This one I really want to see what we can get the results on here. And this one is, how many of you have achieved partner or solutions partner designation or partner solutions designation? Let's go ahead. Do we? Oh, there you go. Perfect. Okay, awesome. So we have. Oh, look at that. That is really kind of cool. Look at that. That is really kind of neat. Hard to justify the time and expense. Okay, but maybe after today, it's not. It's going to be less. Be easier to justify that, right? But really do appreciate, what's going on here with that. Keep voting on that. We want to get. If you're on LinkedIn too, please do that. All right, so let's time to pivot to co-op here. So we're lucky to have Mike here. Help us understand the program, the history. What is the purpose from co-op from the manufacturer's perspective?
Yeah, and Sherman, it's a great question because co-op has been around our industry since the 80s. And it has really been, prevalent since the 90s. And so it's not a new thing. But co-op funds, first of all, it's important to understand there's a difference between co-op and MDF and other marketing fund type of things. Cooperative marketing funds are part of the earnings of an incentive at Microsoft, and for the most part, industry-wide. In other words, part of what you earn in certain incentive programs is a rebate, like a monthly or quarterly rebate, a direct payment, and then part of the funds you earn get put into an account and accrue for a period of time so they can build up. And so you have a period, in our case, a 6-month period where you accrue and build up the funds, and then you use them the next period for typically marketing and readiness activities. And they're really important because what we've seen in the industry, especially in the SMB space, and what we kind of see with our classic channel, and this is not just Microsoft, we've seen this forever in the industry, is that if a lot of times partners will take the incentives they earn, and if they are in a hyper competitive environment and the thing boils down to a decision from the customer on dollars, they'll give away a lot of their incentives to price. So co-op helps combat that. Co-op is money that has to be used for marketing, which can build sales pipeline and help build solution practices and centers of excellence and all those other things you need to build your business, and for readiness activities for the technical certifications that are part of these specializations we're talking about, and the same thing. So it's money that gets invested back into your business and grows. And I have a couple slides in a moment that will highlight what that is. Co-op can be used, for those of you who may not be that aware of it. It's mostly prevalent in our CSP incentives, all of our CSP incentives, surface incentives, and hosting. And then over on the other side of our business with our OEM business, they have co-op in some of their programs. I don't manage those, but I manage the others. And it can be used for demand generation, which is broad marketing. It can be used for market development, which is much more tailored marketing, and partner readiness. And interestingly enough, over the last 3 years, I've added a lot of activities that are way more solutions focused, services focused, like migration services, like the marketing and that sort of thing around that, best practice development, solution building with third parties, which brings a CSP partner with an ISV with Microsoft to a solution that they're going to go publish on the marketplace and do broad selling and that sort of thing. So a lot and proofs of concept. I mean, who would have thought about using co-op for a proof of concept 10 years ago, right? It just wasn't part of our vernacular. So that's what you can use co-op for. And I continue to look at that as the industry changes and as our marketing opportunities change. So that's what you can use it for. So, and I know I have a couple other points around this. I mean, I'm constantly looking at how do partners that are the best of the best use co-op? Because another thing I do a lot with partners is help them with planning for co-op. Because if you don't use co-op, you forfeit it back to Microsoft. I don't want any of that money back. I want partners to use the funds and to work with companies like yours to make sure that they are aware that they have the funds and they're planful around it. And one of the questions I get a lot is, how can I emulate the best of the best partners, right? What did they spend their co-op on? So a couple of years ago, I engaged with our research group, the part of the Microsoft's Office of Economic Development has a research team we were able to use, and they do deep analytics. And I was finally able to get people that could do the deep analytics to really look at partners that are great at acquisition and retention, two of the best metrics in the SMB business for health and growth. What do they use their co-op for? So the partners that are great at acquisition, if you go back a slide, they really use their funds for things like social media marketing, best practice development, migration services. I mean, these are complicated marketing initiatives. This is not just doing a quick telemarketing campaign. They spend a little less on solution building with third party, but if you look at the next slide with partners that are great at retaining and growing customers, they have similar, usage with like migration services, but they do use funds for doing solution building with third parties. And it makes sense because now once they're in the customer and wanting to retain them, they're starting to bring in other partners like ISVs and then market that and grow their footprint within the customer to add value and stickiness within the customer, right? And so it's not surprising that the ones that are great at that do that. Now, this year, I commissioned another research project. And the other pivot I identified a couple years ago that I wanted to look at was, well, what are the best growth partners use their co-op for?
Yeah.
Because I want, it's hard to grow in the CSP business. So for instance, when I looked at, and we're still doing this research, I have a couple other views that probably in December I'll have done. But for like direct bill partners, when I looked at it, the ones that were the best growth, they're growing above all the other CSP partners year over year revenue. They're spending their co-op on things like customized customer seminars around very specific engagements or industry solutions with Microsoft. Digital advertising, they're still doing a lot of social because that's you're able to build a pipeline well. But now that COVID's over, they're starting to do trade shows again. And they're starting to get face-to-face with customers, both seminars and trade shows. That's important for partners to realize. It's time to get face-to-face again. Don't do everything online. You can't beat that face-to-face handshake marketing. The next slide, I think, is just one more view, and that's with resellers. So if you're an indirect reseller in CSP, the high growth resellers, they used it a lot for the same things, but they also used some search engine optimization, and they tend to do telemarketing because you got smaller partners still selling to smaller customers. So telemarketing is still important to take your suspects and turn them into true prospects through some telemarketing work. So those were some insights. There's a lot more behind this than I can talk about in 4 or 5 quick slides. But the point is, we're trying to do work around that. And then I also do a lot of other advice. Like I have put together a best practice library. I think that's the next slide. And I've also put together these. I go back to the slide, if you would. There's a couple slides there that I put together. Every year, I've done this for the last 3 years. I work with our business groups, modern work, security, and Azure and BizApps. And we first find out for the next fiscal year, what are your priorities? So that's on that top line. And then we come up with recommendations. Remember, I can't tell partners what to use their co-op for as long as it's in the co-op guide. But we can certainly give recommendations of what are the activities that you could do across those 3 categories, demand gen, market development, and readiness, that most align to drive our strategy. And if you want to stay in alignment with Microsoft's strategy, because that's where we're going to be putting awareness and general demand awareness in the marketplace, these are the things you can do. And then we also get these links that are in blue. These are resources like campaigns in a box type of resources that if you're a reseller and you don't have a huge marketing department, but you want to grab a real professional looking campaign, put your brand on it with us and get it in the market around one of these issues. This is like a cheat sheet that allows you to do that real quickly as part of your planning. The other thing I've done with planning is develop a best practice library. And I really need to spend a little time updating this. It's about a half a year or so beyond where I should have updated it again. So I'm going to be working on that. But it is literally like a physical library online, split into sections along the whole life cycle of co-op, from planning through execution, through measurement and continual improvement. And in each one of those sections of the library, there are many examples of best practices I've collected both internally and from partners. So part of your planning, if you're thinking about, well, what are some of the best practices? This library exists for you. And I will be updating it. Many partners have used it and seen some practice that said, I hadn't even thought about that. Let me try that. So
That's awesome.
So that's
Now,
a lot of what we've been doing to help partners on the co-op. That's kind of what it can be used for. I first launched co-op globally 12 years ago as part of open license when we globalized that. And I tell you what, I've had a lot of partners that used to give away a lot of their incentives, and now they're using, the co-op to really invest back in their business, and they grow, and they grow, and they grow. And it's like, that's because you're plunging part of that money back into your growth and parting investment into the business. That's the purpose of it. And the ones that do it well, as you can see from those slides, the best of the best really are precise about how they use that money, and they use every dollar of it. They don't leave
Mike,
it on the table.
That was a fantastic summarization, summation of the program. When I saw your if Riva, can you go back to the what the best partners do, the one graph there? When I saw that graph about 2.5, 3 months ago, it was music to my ears, because we don't talk about what the Crancer group does very much. We kind of keep these non-commercialized. However, what we specialize in is actually doing demand generation educational events for partners.
Yep.
Okay, so we bring in 20 to 30 registrations. We get 10 to 15 people in. It's more of a hands-on walkthrough lab, and what we do is we're trying to soften the beachhead by showing people the art of the possibility, right?
Sure.
And what's interesting is that all the partners that we work with, we specialize in seeing, okay, well, how much co-op do you have? Okay, first and foremost, and can we offset the cost of the program? And for the partners that are actually in the program, the good CSP partners, we found in the past, we probably had 5 different partners that the total amount was probably over 250,000 in co-op. Okay, that we found. They sell big buckets. A partner of ours found 65,000. They're like, what? We have this? And I'm like, yes, you do. We can help fund it. Fund our whole program the whole year just by doing this. Now you got to do the events within the timeframes you have to do. So you got to just kind of keep with the parameters. However, those are great events. Our partners are getting 2 to 3 sales qualified leads every event that we do because of the way the process is. So these virtual events, and then we're just coming up with a new AI one. So we know that we're going to be just killing it as far as attendees and registrants. We had 2,600 on our last bump because it was AI. It's huge. But
Yep.
yeah, those partners, and not just our partners, but the partners that are doing this, the best ones are using that money. Okay, how do we get more people to listen to us? And then yeah, I think the press the flesh, it's coming back, right? So
Yeah.
maybe let's do some in-person ones, right? Let's do some of those. Let's kind of do a little bit of both. So you know, I digress a little bit. I don't want to be a big commercial about what we do, but we specialize in that. We actually help partners find that, and then let's use it to bring you more leads. Let's figure it
The
out.
whole thing about co-op, besides using some for readiness, is driving sales pipeline and
Yeah.
and driving leads and driving sales pipeline and growing the business and sustainably growing the business, because the best of the best partners with co-op, they are great at planning. They start planning 3 months before the usage period. They work with Microsoft to align it, but mostly they also have a longer term view, because many times they're looking at campaigns that are bigger, and AI is going to be a great example of this because it is nascent right now, but it is growing like crazy. And over the next 3 to 5 years, having sustainable campaigns around your expertise in AI to create customer demand is going to open up amazing growth opportunities, and co-op funds can be used as part of the marketing efforts and awareness efforts around that for partners. And so do not leave that money on the table. Be very mindful and planful for how you do it. And I've created a lot of resources that are out there for partners that have never approached it that way to help them with step 1, 2, and 3.
And if you don't use it, Mike, what happens?
You forfeit it back to Microsoft, and I don't want it. I want you to use it, period, end of sentence.
Mike doesn't want it. Listen to that. He doesn't
I
want that
want you
money.
to
He wants
spend
you
it.
to use it to build
Yeah.
the business, because exponentially that's better for Microsoft anyways.
Yep.
It's not incrementally great for Microsoft to keep your money. They want you to use it to build the message. So if you don't lose
Sherman, I'm being selfish about that. It's growth for the partners, but my paycheck comes from Microsoft. It's growth for us too. So
yeah, there's no Mike Haines party fund.
no, unfortunately there's not.
Awesome. All right, last poll. We got to put our last one here. And this is another good one here. Microsoft is trying to simplify the engagement with partners. Would you agree or disagree? I agree, I disagree, or I don't want to answer due to potential cancel culture. You know, like you answered this poll 14 years ago. You're canceled now. No, if you can go ahead and submit that, that'd be fantastic. Love to have that. So, we're at time, 3 minutes left. I want to give both of you just a little bit of a platform to do two things. To just give your final thoughts. Now, if you want to contact Jason and Mike, the best place to do it is through LinkedIn. Go ahead and send them a LinkedIn invitation and a question. Now, if you have a very specific, we're going to look at all the questions here in just a minute. We'll get answers for ones that we weren't able to talk about today. And if there's a real special thing, we might be able to help facilitate some type of interaction for that. That's kind of what our value is to our partner base. But Jason, just what are your final thoughts for this session?
I would say that the thing that I would like to give you is I appreciate you coming and being a part of this. I appreciate your responses. And please know that when we say like this is going to go into a meeting, I plan to take these results back to my leadership team to try to create positive change for you. So that's the thing I want you to take away. You're contributing to the ecosystem getting better, and that's my goal. So thank you for being a part of it.
Awesome. Mike?
Well, first of all, thanks everyone. It's always a joy for me to reconnect with partners, and so I always appreciate the opportunity. My main message is together we just achieve so much, and the opportunities ahead of us in the next few years. I think the last few years have been great. The next few years are going to be staggering, and so just stay in tune to where our priorities are and where we're focused, and all the resources we have to help you build your business, not just incentives, but all the other resources from marketing to programmatic pieces. And then lastly, give us the feedback. Do never be shy. Reach out to me in LinkedIn, reach out to me via email. If it has to do with incentives, if it has to do with co-op, I love the feedback. Some of the best changes I've made in programs over the last 13 years have been based on partner feedback. I used to be one. I understand and I appreciate the feedback. thank you too. Look forward to the next time we can talk.
Fantastic. Now, next month, we're going to actually get into how to find your co-op and how to spend it. We're going to talk about the different programs that we find that you can go ahead and use. So please come to the next one. If you want to learn how to do that and do it the right way, we'll go over. We're not just going to talk about how we do it, but we're going to talk about like the different programs, how you might want to position certain things, how it qualifies, how it does not qualify. Okay, we want to make sure that we're always following the right methodology with that. But look, my last thought is this is a great opportunity for everybody here with the incentives, partner solutions designations, specializations. Don't look at it as something like, hey, not worth it, because you can actually get ahead of your competition actually quite quickly with that. So thanks, guys. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it. We're landing the plane right on the time. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you guys later. Happy Halloween and have a great afternoon, great weekend. Talk to you later.
Thanks all. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you later.